If you love reading, chances are you know the difference between the kind of book that kind of narrates a story to you and gives you the sense that you're listening to a story, and a story that grabs you in such a way that you didn't even know what happened, but you're in it with the character. It sort of doesn't give you a choice to be a part of it. That is the kind of story I want to write, and I call it in the moment writing, something that draws you in and makes you a part of it and continually makes you want to go further with this character and with this story. Hi, I'm Jubilee Lipsy, and welcome back to Writing Radiance, the writing section of my channel. And today I want to talk about in-the-moment writing. Halfway through 2023, after I published Of Sheaves and Stars, I wanted to research a little bit what makes a story do that, what makes a story drag a reader in of their own free will, and they just kind of realize they're in the story. That in-the-moment writing that makes you a part of it. And I researched, some other writers' channels, and I looked at my own work and the work of people that I really love, books that I love, films that I love. And I determined a couple things that I saw across the board. Natural description, unannounced statements from the characters' minds, information that lures the readers in rather than dumping on them, maturity, and caution with backstory and flashback. And so the first thing I want to address is natural description. And this is something that I came up with the name for it. I don't know that it's officially called this, but basically I decided that one way that you can make your readers feel like they're in the moment with the character is to determine what kind of description needs to take place based on how familiar the character is with their setting and situation. Because the thing is, the reader is either observing something familiar or discovering something new along with the main character, but they shouldn't be preached at either way. So you want to pull the setting into the action and the dialogue and let the description unfold naturally based on the character's experience. The one thing you don't want to do is stop the story for description. When I was younger, what I used to do was I used to start some action and dialogue, and the characters would be doing something, having conversation, and then I would take a separate paragraph to describe what the sky looked like. Don't do that. Don't separate the reader's attention like that. As the characters are moving and as they're talking, pull the description about the sky, if it has to be a part of the story, pull it into what they're already doing. And let the description unfold naturally based on where the characters are and what they're going through and how they're connecting with it. Because the readers don't really care what the sky looks like as long as except as it connects with the characters. If it matters to the characters, then it'll matter to the reader, but it doesn't matter just as a thing that stands out. So for instance, if the characters are in their home, the description is going to be affected by that. You don't need to go into great detail about the history of their house and what everything looks like because they've lived there. They know what their house looks like. So you would want to be very particular about where you drop hints of what things look like through the lens of a character that knows what their house looks like. But if the character is in an airport in a city that they've never been to before and they've never been to an airport in their life, then you might, describe things from that perspective of just them recognizing things, little details that they never noticed before. So allow the characters to guide you and allow the action and the dialogue to guide you when it comes to description. Don't stop the story for it. The second thing you can do to make readers in the moment with the character is those unannounced statements from the characters' minds. Now, don't narrate those. So, for instance, in one of my books, I mention that the character's cousin used to say, "No tension, just zeal." It's like a little catchphrase in the family. But you can just say that in italics, just straight from the character's mind. "No tension, just zeal," my cousin used to say. You don't have to say, "I pause and remember what my cousin used to say, no tension, just zeal." So you don't have to narrate or announce these statements from the character's minds. But when you don't want to overdo it, but when you just put these statements into the reading, the reader feels more in the character's head. So as long as you don't announce them or narrate the heck out of them, those italicized statements can really reveal what the character is thinking and reveal a lot more about them as a person, things that are just naturally in their head. The biggest thing that I've learned writing and studying writing is that not all information is equally important overall or to a particular scene. You want to keep feeding readers pertinent information in little bits, drawing them in by raising questions as you go, but keep everything that you share relevant to what you want them focused on. I used to think that I had to tell the readers in the first chapter everything about the history of this character and everything about their world and all of that. But that's not the way it's supposed to go. It's not just about dumping information on people. It's about what pieces of information are necessary to keep them focused on this scene, and what questions are you presenting and answering in little bits to keep them interested in going farther. And one thing you can do is write a couple scenes and then have your friends who like your writing, have them look at those scenes and ask them, would you want to keep reading to find out what's going to happen? How sure are you about what is going to happen? Are you getting your questions answered? Do you have cool questions about where this is going? That can be a lot of help. You also want to be cautious with backstory and flashback. If you want to keep readers in the moment, you have to think about things like backstory and flashback and use them with caution. The more impactful a moment is meant to be, the more you should tighten the focus. Not everything needs to be dramatized in the moment. Some things are more impactful when left off the page or off the screen if you're writing a film. So backstory is the stuff that happened in the character's past, and a flashback is when the character actually goes back into that moment from the past and the reader goes there with them. And so since the reader is going to go where the character goes, you want to make sure that if you're going to dramatize a backstory moment or discuss it, that it is necessary for the moment and it's not going to distract the reader and take them off on some tangent. It needs to matter for the moment. And all this comes down to is recognizing what you're trying to say in this chapter and only saying that and leaving other stuff for later. You want to leave something for the next chapter. And finally, maturity of the character. Resist the urge to tie everything up neatly in each chapter. You want to keep an eye on the overall arc of the story and how the character is learning and growing, but don't try to fix their perspective on every page. Allow the characters to be where they are emotionally at any given point in the journey. I used to, as a younger writer, I used to be like, the character's perspective is so messed up here. I've got to let them have like an epiphany in every chapter. But that's not how real people are. Real people take a long time to grow into what they know to be true. And then they contradict themselves and they hear from God and they resist him. They ignore him. They ignore good advice. They self-sabotage. They do all kinds of things. So just don't feel like you have to tie things up neatly so quickly. Allow the reader to be in the current stage that the character's in with them. And don't try to dress that up. The readers will appreciate the character's growth arc more if they are allowed to be where the character is right now. So I hope this helps, and I hope this gives you some more insight into how you can write in the moment with the character. There's definitely a lot more to it, but this is what I have discovered just the past year in 2023, just really looking more into my own writing and what I love about books that I love. It is such a privilege to be able to study my own work and think what worked well and what I could do better. And I encourage you, study your own writing, but not with a frustrated eye, but just think of it as a privilege. I get to create something beautiful, and then I get to learn how to trim it and make it better and make it healthier and thrive for the future. I'll see you next time.